The voice heats up over Fireman singing Morgan Wallen cover. During the recent competition on The Voice, a firefighter gets the room moving with his Morgan Wallen cover. After his performance, things heat up between coaches vying for his vote. Fireman Deot Talmage gets the coaches spinning. In the March 11 episode of The Voice, 20-year-old firefighter Deot Talmage caught the attention of several coaches with his raspy rendition of Morgan Wallen's Sand in My Boots. While the young singer belts out the song, John Legend, Dan Smyers, and Shay Mooney spin their chairs around during the blind audition. Country music duo Dan and Shay, along with John, gave Deot a standing ovation at the end of his performance. Then banter began between John and the combo team of Dan and Shay. The voice coach, John Legend, makes his case initially. The voice coach and R&B singer, John Legend, makes his case for joining his team, saying, "What I love the most about your voice is just that little scratch in it." Then he continues, "It's such a cool tone. It's breathy. It's just a lovely voice to listen to. And I know I can be a great coach for you, even if I didn't grow up listening to country music. I do know what a great song is, and I do know how to help you plan a great performance." Team Legend. It's not the traditional choice, it's not the obvious choice, but it's an excellent choice. But Dan and Shay heckle back saying, "It's not the right choice." The voice team Dan and Shay go after Deot while things heated up in the battle for Deot Talmage. The voice coaches Dan and Shay spar for their team to be chosen. Badgering John Legend, the country duo picked at everything he said to dismantle the reasons for Deot to choose John. Dan name drops that they personally know Morgan Wallen and Carrie Underwood. And John tries to win some ground by adding he once won a CMT award with Carrie in 2021 for Hallelujah. Then Dan and Shay keep at it by saying, "Honestly, we have no one like you on our team, and you would be an absolute standout. I promise you that," jokingly mentioning they don't have any firefighters at all on their team. Then adding some flattering, "Man, your voice sounds like it should be on country radio right now," Dan Smyers says. "It was incredible, and you really opened up. You've got a lot of power to your voice, man." The voice battle ends with Deot's choice. Both Reba McEntire and Chance, the rapper, opted to pass on Deot Talmage, noting that he was a bit pitchy in his performance. However, Chance complimented him on being funny, then proceeded to tell him to lean into that during the remainder of the competition. But in the end, Deot Talmage selected Dan and Shay's team, which made both country musicians this day, exclaiming, "That's what I'm talking about. And that's our guy." Dan Smyers also elaborates, "His performance was amazing," adding, "That was exactly what we were looking for, somebody with that country twang." What did you think about Deot Talmage? Did you enjoy his Morgan Wallen cover performance on The Voice? Drop your comments below. As the stage lights dimmed, anticipation filled the room. It was another heated round of The Voice the Blind auditions, where contestants hoped to turn the judges' chairs and make an indelible impression. But no one could have predicted that the star of the night would be a humble fireman, whose rendition of a Morgan Wallen hit would leave the audience breathless and the judges scrambling to secure him for their teams. The world of country music and reality talent shows collided in an unexpected way that evening when a fireman from a small southern town stepped onto the stage. Dressed in a simple plaid shirt and worn jeans, he looked like any other contestant. But the moment he began to sing, everything changed. A song that resonates, Morgan Wallen's songs have a way of cutting through to the heart of country fans. His raw, emotive lyrics and powerful voice speak to the universal experiences of love, loss, and resilience. The fireman, who introduced himself as Jake Sullivan, had chosen to cover Wallen's deeply personal hit, "Cover Me Up." Wallen's version of the song is already iconic, brimming with raw emotion as it tells the story of personal redemption and the kind of love that can pull someone out of darkness. It's a tough song to sing, requires not only vocal talent, but an emotional authenticity that many struggle to bring to the stage. But from the very first note, Jake's voice rang with sincerity, instantly capturing the hearts of those watching. His voice wasn't just good, it was extraordinary. A rich, gravelly tenor that told a story of its own. As he sang, it became clear that he wasn't just performing. He was living the lyrics, connecting with the song in a way that felt deeply personal. It was as if every word Wallen had written resonated with Jake's own experiences. A heartfelt performance, Jake's backstory added another layer of depth to his performance. A fireman for over a decade, he had seen the best and worst of humanity. He had rushed into burning buildings, saved lives, and comforted families in their most desperate moments. But through it all, music had been his constant companion. Singing was his release, his way of processing the weight of the job. In a pre-performance interview, Jake spoke about how he would sing to his fellow firefighters during long shifts at the station or while waiting for the next emergency call. "Music is how I unwind, how I heal," he explained, his voice cracking with emotion. "Sometimes, after a tough day, I'll put on a song like Morgan Wallen's and just let it all out." As Jake stood on the stage under the spotlight, his vulnerability shone through. He wasn't just a fireman. He was a man with dreams, hopes, and a deep love for music. His performance of "Cover Me Up" wasn't just technically impressive, it was emotionally charged. You could hear the echoes of his life experiences in every note. By the time he hit the starring chorus, urging, "So girl, leave your boots by the bed / we ain't leaving this room," there was a palpable shift in the room. The audience was entranced, and the judges were visibly moved. One by one, their chairs began to spin. Judges scrambled to secure him first. It was Blake Shelton, the country star and longtime voice coach. Shelton, who is known for his straightforward, no-nonsense approach, couldn't help but be impressed by Jake's authenticity. As soon as he hit his button, he leaned forward, hanging on every word, nodding his head as Jake's voice filled the room. "Man, you're the real deal," Shelton said once the performance ended, his voice filled with admiration. "You're not just singing a song, you're living it. And that's what country music is all about." Kelly Clarkson was the next to turn, followed closely by Niall Horan. Clarkson, with her background in pop and country, praised Jake for his raw talent and the way he connected emotionally with the song. "You've got something special," she told him. "There's a depth to your voice that can't be taught. I can feel the life you've lived through your music." Horan, while less experienced in country music, also threw his hat in the ring. "I may not be a country artist, but I know when someone's got heart. And you, man, you've got heart for days." The only holdout was Chance the rapper, who typically gravitates towards different musical styles. Yet, even he seemed on the verge of pressing his button, clearly caught up in the moment, nodding his head along to the music. The fireman's choice, when it came time for Jake to choose his coach, the tension was thick. Would he go with Blake, the obvious choice for a country artist? Or would he choose Clarkson, known for her ability to nurture powerhouse voices? Or would he surprise everyone and pick someone unexpected? Jake stood on stage, clearly overwhelmed by the reaction. For a moment, it looked like he was still processing the fact that all of this was happening, that he, a fireman from a small town, had not only moved the audience, but had the judges of The Voice fighting for him. After a long pause, Jake smiled and pointed to Blake Shelton. The country star let out a victorious yell, while the other coaches clapped in good-natured disappointment. A Star is Born, Jake's journey on The Voice had just begun, but it was already clear that he was a force to be reckoned with. His heartfelt performance of a Morgan Wallen classic had struck a chord with both the judges and the audience. But more than that, it reminded everyone watching why music matters. It has the power to connect us, to heal us, and to give us a voice even when we feel like the world isn't listening. As Jake Sullivan walked off the stage that night, he wasn't just a fireman anymore. He was a rising star, a man whose voice and story had the power to move millions. And it was only the beginning.